Welcome back to my podcast, The Right Routine. It used to be called the Writing Partner in the Motherhood Balancing Act, but I've decided to kind of expand it. And now it is the Reluctant Writer's Accomplice, because I think that's needed. This is my brother. Jack, would you please introduce yourself? Let us know how many kids you have, what you do for a living, what you've written.
Hey, yeah, my name is Jack. I'm like almost 40 years old. I am a police officer full time. I'm a part time uh, Army officer. I've got 6 kids. And what I've written 2 complete novels. A third is like 98% done. Um, I self-published the first one. I haven't really done anything with the second two, and I feel like I'm just kind of in a holding pattern with my writing. I think that's an accurate way to put it. Um, so yeah, so reluctant writer. Yeah, you could probably. That's probably a good title.
Repeat that. What kind of pattern are you in? I didn't quite catch it.
Oh, a holding pattern, um, or like on a plateau, if you will,
Oh, okay.
where there's no progress being made. Kind of just like a stalemate, perhaps is another way
Gotcha.
to put it.
Okay. I don't think I've heard that term before, a holding pattern.
Hmm. It's an
Um,
airplane thing.
oh, cool. Okay. All right then. Um, so to start, I wanted to, sorry, I've got a fussy baby here and she just refuses to cooperate. I would like to start at the beginning. Because we are siblings, mom would tell us stories to the three youngest girls. You probably heard about those. The three princesses, those stories. Okay, well, they were awesome. um, but she also mentioned that she used to tell you stories. Do you do you remember those?
I do remember some of them. So instead of 3 princesses, which makes sense for you 3 girls, she would
Yeah.
tell um, like Super Benjamin stories, like I was a superhero.
That's great.
Yeah. hmm
So how did that affect you?
Um, well, I don't know if consciously it ever affected me. Obviously, it made me feel special, right? If your mom is telling a story about you, you feel all happy inside and loved and appreciated and stuff. Um, but it did, obviously kind of start that storytelling seed, perhaps. Here's our here's our mom telling stories that she's made up, she's come up with in her own mind, and she's telling these stories to us, and I'm sure it implanted some pattern in us for storytelling.
Hmm. That's good. It's funny because um, G and Rachel, they write stories too, which is
hmm
uh-huh. But I don't think our other siblings do. When I've talked to them, they've mentioned, "Oh yeah, I thought about doing it," but they haven't actually done it. So I don't know. So that's interesting. Um, what uh, what made you want to start writing stories? Because telling them is different from writing them. And when did you start writing? I guess is also important.
So I, from the beginning, I've been an avid reader, and so through high school I would be reading books. Middle school I was reading books, and in college um, I was just a voracious reader. So it seemed like it took me more time to pick a book to read than it did to actually read the book, which is ridiculous. But so when I was in college, I I had a notebook and I started keeping track of the books that I read. And when I realized it was insane. I was reading 20 to 30 books a month, and eventually you just kind of run out of stuff to read. So it kind of culminated so after college, I was like reading all these stories, always had a book in my hands. I went on a deployment for the military to Iraq. And, so I didn't have a lot of room to pack a ton of books. So I got an e-reader. I downloaded a bunch of books on that. But while I was there, I didn't have the mental stillness to read because things could always pop off or, could get exciting. And so I could never really get into the books. But it was odd. I had a person in one of my college classes, one of my English classes. He had talked about the benefits of writing and how he really enjoyed it as a pastime. And so I had that floating in the back of my head. And then there was another soldier who was deployed with me, and he was also into writing. And so I figured I did have some downtime where I couldn't do anything. I had to be on call. So it's not like I could sleep or go work out or whatever. I had to be ready to go, but I couldn't still my mind enough to read and get into a story. So I had to write. And so you can always find a notebook, you can always find paper. So I was just there, started handwriting out a story. So I once I got back from deployment, I had this this story that I had written. It was very short, only like 45,000 words. So I decided to kind of flesh it out a little bit, edit it a little bit, and that was my first story.
And is that the one I've read?
Yeah.
Okay, I liked it.
Well,
That's good.
Which one did you read?
I think I read the first one, like the end of the world, and kind of.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
actually, all the books I write are about the end of the world.
Oh, okay. Well, I remember in the end he has to go on a rescue mission
Oh,
for.
cool. Well, all my stories are like the same.
Oh.
So, did he kill people with a bat?
Yes, I think so. And then he also
we're good. Yeah,
had
that's
like
the first
garden
one.
shears
Yeah.
that he attached to a stick and used that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one. Yep, that's the first one that I wrote.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It was good. I liked it. It hit me. The ending was rough
Thank you.
for me.
One thing about my stories, I like the endings to be a bit of a gut punch.
I didn't know that. I didn't know all of them were like that because you showed me a few chapters of your second book.
Mhm.
So obviously I didn't get to the end, but I didn't know that. Do you like books like that?
I feel like the best stories are ones where it's sad at the end.
Really?
I don't know if that's wrong. Yeah. But it has to be for a good reason. Obviously, you can't just write a book and be like, and then everybody died at the end.
Right.
And I guess you could, but you have to. I want to feel that the story's complete, and there has to be some sorrow at the end. I don't know, maybe.
So there's something I've heard of, and I've tried to implement this into my stories now. So my current story, maybe, but
Mhm.
that there needs to be a sacrifice for
Hmm.
the resolution. Because I
Hmm.
usually like, and maybe it's our mother's influence because she test reads a lot of my books, and so I know she
Hmm.
wants a happy ending. So I've tried to have
Yeah.
one, but I think I like more of a not depressing, but there has to be a price paid.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of leaning into that a bit more, and I don't think she's gonna like them.
Well, and not everybody does, but I love stories. Kind of like I'm gonna name some movies if that's okay.
Yeah.
Like Braveheart or Gladiator, Saving Private Ryan. Um, You know, those are movies where, yeah, there's a resolution, but there's a price. That's a good way to put it. That there's a price for resolution.
Well, it makes me think
I,
of
I
Les
find those.
Mis.
Yeah, Les Mis. That's a great story too. Like I find those stories to be more compelling. You know, you can turn on Hallmark Channel and watch, a happy-go-lucky movie, and at the end everything's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
How much risk is there really in watching that? But you know, I like stories where you just don't know,
Mm.
where there's no rules.
Well, you were very consistent in the book I read, the first one that I read completely.
Mm.
And I think that's true. I think that's important because you can't just have anything happen. It has to make sense. It has to be satisfying. You know.
Yeah, yeah. There's rules to stories.
Hmm.
You know, that's something that I've kind of done a little bit of research on, not enough, but we've been telling each other stories for however long we've been a species, whatever that means, whatever take you want on that. But these stories, they do have kind of an imprint of rules that, yeah, we need to follow, make it a recognizable and a satisfying story. So when I said that I don't follow any rules, what I should say is you should never know what is going to happen at the end. I guess that's what I mean to say by that. Because yeah, there
So
are rules. You always have the call to action and ramping up of the action and conflict and that sort of stuff.
those archetypes, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so this isn't exactly the same thing. I think you're talking more of archetypes and how people say, "Oh, there's only like 9 original stories or 7." I don't know what number it is, which I tried to disprove, but turns out it's true. But
Yeah.
if to have a satisfying story, I think there's value in having a story that reflects life. There's always sacrifices. There's always something unexpected. There's always a change, be it good or bad.
hmm
Um, and I think stories like that are very satisfying.
Yeah.
Um, what is your writing method? So for your first book, you wrote it by hand. Do you prefer to do that?
hmm
Really?
Yes, I find. So I don't know. I mean, I guess it's kind of worked so far. Um, so I like to just handwrite because I find if I try to type it out, one, I have to have equipment to type. I have to have a computer or whatever, so I have to lug that around. Whereas handwriting, I just need a notebook and a pen. You can find those anywhere. So I like to handwrite it, and also I feel I'm kind of a perfectionist a little bit. I think everybody is a little bit. When we put things out in the world, we want it to be good or good quality. And when I type, you get the little squiggles under the sentences, and you just want to like backspace and fix everything, and so you get all wrapped up in editing when what you should be doing is just puking out the story. Like just get the story out of your head. So handwriting, you can't go back. So you just write it, and you can. And I find this a little bit faster too. I mean, your hand gets a little bit tired sometimes, but you can just write, and it's out. And then once I get that first draft out, it's all on pages. Then what I'll do is I'll go back and I'll just type up that rough draft. I know with today's technology, there's probably faster or better ways to do it. So if I was smart, I'd probably get some sort of dictation software or something like that to translate the handwritten notes into digital notes. But so once I get a digital copy, what I'll do is then I go back and start editing. That's when I want to take a look at the story as a whole see if it's satisfying, see where there's gaps, see if the action makes sense, see if it's paced well. Try to do all that, make sure there's a good overall arc. Then what I want to do is go in chapter by chapter and kind of get into the nitty gritty and make sure everything is consistent. And fill up the story a little bit more, fill it out. There's some people, when they write, they can just write gobs of words. Like, they just have a huge, like, story to tell. And I admire that. My stories, they're all pretty concise. Like, they're pretty short. Like, I don't have a lot to say about things. So I don't know if it's more like I don't know what kind of style you would call that. But it's pretty bare bones usually. So it's like, you look at books like Dune, or even think of some, there's some of these stories that just take up pages and pages and pages and pages and pages. And I love reading stories like that. I love it. I enjoy reading them, but that's not how I write. That's kind of my process anyway.
Gotcha. That's a lot like mine. Handwriting is just, yeah, it takes the longest, certainly. I actually have an episode about this. It's like episode 2, I think. It takes the longest, but it's certainly the most convenient.
Yeah.
You just need a notebook and like 2 pens in case one of them goes out. And you can use a fountain pen, which is better than anything else invented in this world. So.
And it is satisfying. I find it satisfying to see that page fill up.
Yeah.
The physical, and you have that notebook, and it's a physical representation of your work.
Yeah. No, and it definitely helps not being able to just delete a big chunk and rewrite it. Like, so all the notes in the margins. Like, oh, switch this to this next time. But there's so much you can do, which is awesome for just just spewing it out, the vomit draft.
Yeah.
What are the goals that you have for your books? Do you want to be? Oh, you're already published. Do you want to sell to a big publisher, or?
I wouldn't say, I wouldn't call myself published. Like, to me, I don't want to insult anybody. But to me, I don't feel you're published unless a publisher is like, hey, I want to print your book. Just because I throw it out on the internet, to me, doesn't mean it's published. I mean, technically, I guess it is, but it doesn't feel that way to me. So my first book, yeah, I did put it out. I think I put it on like the Kindle or something like that. I don't remember, but the other 2, I haven't done that. I feel so with the first book, yeah, it's kind of like a one and done. There's no sequel. There's nothing like that. With my second story, I had planned to write 3 books for like a trilogy. So I finished the first one, and like I said, I have like a 90% solution on the second one. And I've kind of stopped there because I think I am afraid to make some decisions with the story for the third one. And so part of it's like, hey, yeah, I just don't know exactly what direction I want to go. So I need to just put my big boy pants on and just get to it. But yeah.
What's stopping you from writing, apart from the decision making?
Oh, I'm just lazy too. So I feel like I kind of need to be like a captive. Like, if I have a computer or a TV, then I'm so lazy that I'd rather just play video games or watch a movie rather than writing. Whereas there are certain situations where I don't have that stuff, and so I just have a notebook and a pen so I can write. So then I'll write. I mean, it takes effort to write. It's hard. It's like, choose the right words, try to describe what you're seeing. It takes time and effort and brain power, and it is satisfying, but it's also hard. And then it's also hard, I think, in today's day and age, we're just inundated with there's stories everywhere. They're available all over the place. Lots of people write, lots of people tell stories, and it's easy to, at least for me, I feel like I'm putting in all this effort to make these stories good, and maybe me and a few other people, like my family, like you, are going to read them, and nobody else will. So what's the point of making all this effort to make this hone this story, and then if not many people are going to read it, and then also like, well, there's so many other stories out there. Somebody else has had this theme, or somebody else has told the story I want to tell, and they've probably done it in a better way. So those are the two thoughts that don't really serve me well, but that's what I'm going with for now.
Would you like to, have you queried your book, your first book? Did you send it out to agents?
No.
Would you consider doing that?
Like just Googling it, or?
No, sending it out to agents who then take it to publishers.
I did do that. I did do that some years ago, like just kind of half-heartedly. I did get one response, like a personal response. I know they all sound personal, but this one was actually like, hey, work on this or this or whatever. So I was like, okay, that's cool. But like a Herculean effort for what kind of payoff? I don't know.
So you're not aspiring. I mean, you already have a great career, 2 of them.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I already have 2 careers. Do I need a third?
Yeah.
Can I handle a third? I don't think so.
Yeah. Plus father of 6.
But I mean, I do kind of have that fantasy in my head, like when I'm retired, I'll just be like that guy that's just sitting down somewhere and just pumping out books, just because I'll have time.
Yeah.
So, but of course, by the time I'm old and retired, I don't know if I'll have anything to say.
You'll probably have more things to say.
Perhaps.
Well, what gives you inspiration to write? Well, because for me, you've encouraged me a few times. Is there an inspirational quote or something that helps you get started?
No, there's no quotes. There's nothing like that. I think what really got me started with writing is kind of frustration. I think writers in general, we kind of view the world differently. At least we see the world as it is, and we wish it was different.
Mm-hmm.
At least I don't know. Maybe I'm just making broad strokes generalizations, but that's kind of how I thought. And so when I wrote my first 2 stories, I didn't have the career that I have now. So I think I was kind of frustrated with my place in life, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, now I've kind of moved on to where I have a good career, 2 good careers, and I don't really sense that frustration anymore that I did before. That writing was really cathartic for me.
Well, that's good news then. Maybe it's a good thing.
Yeah, maybe, or I'm just like that far down. Like I'm just so far down that I can't even see the light anymore. I wouldn't even recognize it. So it's one or the other.
Okay. Well, this just took a depressing turn downwards.
Yeah. So sorry for that.
It's just like the books that reflect real life. Life's spring,
just
you
like real
die.
life. Yeah, everybody dies. Everybody dies at the end. Eventually, if you read the story long enough. Yeah.
Okay. Well, usually in these books, you have like an inspirational quote at the end. That's kind of what I was going for.
Oh yeah.
It's not in the opposite direction.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I'm not that guy.
It's all right. Perfectly fine.
Actually, hey, wait. So I did hear something that has been very liberating. It was on a podcast, and the podcaster said, hey, A lot of us, like, we shoot for perfection and we want perfection, but really all you need to do is shoot for a B- and just do it. It's like, hey, I can do B- work. Like, I could do that. So that's like my new motto in life, B-.
Hey, fine. Thank you so much for chatting. Anything else you want to say? Any advice you'd like to give to me or anyone else?
If you got a story in your head, just puke it out. Just get it out. Just do it.
I agree. Spew it out.
Love you.
Well,
Hope
thank
things are
you so
going
much. I really appreciate you taking your time. I think both of our kids are ready to have us back. I love you.
Super fun.
Okay. Have a great day.
Yeah, we'll have to do this again sometime.
We will. Goodbye.
Bye.
Okay, well, thanks for joining my podcast. Have a great week. Make sure to post your writing goals somewhere, probably on Instagram. Use hashtag the right routine and follow me there for daily reminders to write. Have a good one. Bye.